it's Amy. Today I'm sharing with you a more detailed, I guess, instructional on the way that I do my cloud pours. I just did a class with Kathleen down in Fort Myers, and a lot of the students requested a video of exactly what I did in that class. So that's what I'm gonna do for you today, and then also share it with my viewers on YouTube. So I'm gonna do exactly what I did in that class. This is a 12-inch round. This is what we used in the class. It's cradled. This is really nice. It's got like a 1-inch cradle there. This is gessoed, so that we have like a little primer on there, so none of that wood grain or anything shows through. And for my base coat, I am using Liquitex, Floetrol, and water. So this is Liquitex Titanium White mixed with Floetrol and water. I add quite a bit of water because I want my base to be thinner than the rest of my paints. So this is basically just a surface for everything to slide on. I have my colors mixed, and these were actually mixed before I did that class. So these colors have been mixed for a couple weeks now. They are still perfectly fine, ready to use. And when I mix my colors, I do like them to sit because I don't like air bubbles. It gives that freckled or measled look, like Kathleen says, and I don't prefer it. Some people like it. If you like it, mix your paints and go. You will get those there. If you don't like it, let your paint sit for a while like me. So all this has been sitting and it's perfectly fine. All my paint colors are mixed the same way. 1 part paint, 2 part Floetrol, and water to thin if you want it thin. You do not have to have it thin. If you want to do this cloud pour with thick paints, you go for it. If you want to do this cloud pour with a 1-second trace in your cup, go for it. It will still work. My piggies here, this is a Mermaid. So it's a scoop of piggy, squirt of GAC 100, make a slurry. Scoop or glop of gel gloss to turn it into a paint, like a soft body paint. Floetrol to turn it into a fluid paint. So it ends up being, after you have your glop and you're looking at it, if you've had your gel gloss, you're looking at it, that will be your 1 part, and then add 2 parts of Floetrol to that. If you're a little over, it's going to be okay. If you're a little under, it's going to be okay. With this technique, you don't have to measure. It's not an exact science with this technique. Some techniques it is, not with this technique. This is my cloud mix that I had mixed up before I left. There's a little bit left in here that we're going to use. We don't want to make any waste. This is 1 part of our Artist Loft Soft Body White. 1 part Vallejo Pearl Medium. If you don't have Vallejo Pearl Medium, Satin Enamels. It can give a chalky look if you use this. When you varnish it, some of that chalkiness goes away. Does it still puff up and bloom? Yes, it does. It clouds wonderfully, but it's just a little bit, tiny bit different look. Here are 2 examples that I have done. One is with Vallejo and Artist Loft Soft Body. One is with Satin Enamels and Soft Body. They are both varnished. They both look very pretty. Can you tell the difference? I actually have a video where I did these. It's video number 12 if you want to refer back to that on my channel. This is the one that I used only Vallejo in. This is the one that I use Satin Enamels in. It's a little puffier. Everything else was exactly the same. So you can decide which one you prefer to use. You don't want to waste money if you don't have to. So if you already have Satin and Enamels, go for it. If you only have Vallejo, go for it. You're going to get beautiful results. So that recipe again, 1 part Artist Loft Soft Body, 1 part one of these guys, 2 parts Floetrol, water to thin if you want to. So let's get started on loading our cup. Got my little paper cup here. When I'm layering my cup, this is the seam of the cup. I put my finger there because when I'm pouring into my cup, I pour opposite from it. So if for some reason I need to set my cup down after I layer it, I want to know where I need to pick it up by, because where the paint goes in is where you want the paint to come out. So always I put my finger there. And today I'm going to do this just like I did in my class. Well, actually, you know what? I'm going to pour my base first. Some people wait, some people don't. I like to go ahead and pour it first because when I get my cup put together, I just want to go. And you guys, I love to reuse these smart water bottles. Even though I don't buy them anymore because I don't like drinking out of plastic, but my husband was buying them for himself. But I love to keep these and pour my slop paints after I filtered them into it to re-pour. I like to mix up base and load up a bunch of these just with the titanium white and the Floetrol thin down, ready to go. I keep a couple on my table at all times just so it's ready for me. But I love these bottles. They're the right size to kind of grab. They're not too big. And just a little tip there on things that I do. Okay, so we're gonna pour out plenty enough to cover for our paint to slide upon. If you want to, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to spread this out. I like to spread it out. I'm just that way. So I'm gonna torch my bubbles out. And then we're just going to spread it out. Again, it's not a have to, it just makes me feel better. I have little tendencies where I like things certain ways, and this is just one of the things that I like. So I'm going to make sure I've got a little bit on the sides going just so that it wants to flow over nicely. This substrate has such a nice edge on it that we want to make sure it looks as pretty as the top does. Back to our cup. Again, finger on the seam. I'm going to load from the opposite side. I take, and this is going to be the center of my pour. So what goes in first comes out last. And I'm going just 1 second of pour there. And it's not exact a second, but I don't do a whole lot. Now I'm gonna go in, so that was pigment. So I wanna put the pigment next to a paint, a regular paint. This is Amsterdam Prussian blue, one of my favorites. I like the way it reacts with the Mermaid. So I'm gonna put more of it than I did Mermaid. 1, 2. Next up is my cloud. We're gonna do a little more of this cloud than we did that last color because this is only a 12-inch round. We don't need to have double cloud layers. So much is gonna get spun off. 12 inches isn't far to go. So we're just gonna do one layer of cloud here. So I'm going to do a longer count. So I'm gonna do 1, 2, 3. Okay, now we're gonna go layering in with another paint on the other side of that. I have a little bit of this turquoise left. Next, I'm gonna take my pigment. This is Unicorn. I'm gonna pour it next to my cup, and we're gonna make a pigment sandwich. That was just a quick little pour. I'm gonna go back in with the paint because we're sandwiching the pigment in. And I'm going to finish and pour up to the top of my cup, almost to the top of my cup. So we're making a pigment sandwich in, and then just filling it to the top. Now most of that will get stretched off, but we want to make sure we have enough for our sides since we have a 1-inch side on this canvas, on this substrate. So I've set my cup down. So how do I know where I'm going to start the pour from? Well, remember we loaded the cup opposite of the seam. So we're going to turn our cup, and that's what will face down when we pour. We are going to pour right in the center, and we're going to do our best to keep it there. You can see it's naturally making that squiggle, that ribbon candy look. And if I wanted to do the hurricane spiral look, I would spin. For today's purpose, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to pour. So I'm wanting those ribbons to show up, so I am moving it back and forth now. You can rotate your arm a little bit when you're doing it, like I'm doing here. Just subtle, not big, huge. And yeah, so back and forth. And this is a thick paint for my pour today, so we're getting nice, thick, juicy lines in it. And when you get when you feel like you're starting to get to the end of that cup, that's when I start the spiral motion, but I don't want a ton of that. Just a little bit. So then I take my slop bucket, my canning funnel, take that cup we were pouring out of, put it in there, and then this paint will drain. I'll do a couple paintings, it'll go in there, and then I'll use that for the base coat on another painting. So I'm going to try to tilt a little bit my center to the center, if that makes sense. So you can see naturally we're getting some of the air bubbles moving to the top, and that's what's making these little dots. So I don't like that dot. I'm going to skewer it. I'm going to push down into the paint, and that will help cover it up a little bit. It's not perfect, but at least it's not a big bright white in your face freckle. I'll do that with a couple of these, and then they won't look so shockingly large when you start to spread it out when you spin. I don't want it to start rolling off just yet, so I'm gonna maneuver it a wee bit. So it's at this point that if you want, you can tilt your design, you can spin. Of course, I've got it on the spinner, so I can spin it, or heck, I can just pick it up and tilt a little bit. I am going to try to stretch a little bit that way. And then I'm gonna come back and just kind of roll around to kind of get everything more rounded. Okay. And that keeps popping up there, and it may be that there's nothing I can do with that. It's just gonna be that way. It's just really bothering me. Okay, so now we're gonna spin, and we're gonna spin slowly. I'm not torching anymore because that's only gonna make more freckles. I don't want any more of that. So we're gonna start spinning slowly. We want all of our paint to stay here on our tabletop. We don't want anything in the floor. This is a low profile spinner, so the paint won't go that far. The higher your spinner is off of your table, the farther the paint will fly, so be careful of that. So I'm just spinning slowly. And by spinning slowly, I can stop it faster, and I can say, okay, look at all this unicorn here. If I keep spinning, I'm gonna lose some of that. So I need to think about what I'm willing to sacrifice. I kind of like what it's doing, but I like my center. So I am gonna just tilt ever so slightly so that maybe I get some of this spun off and can keep at least a tiny bit of that. We might not be able to, we'll see. Now, as I'm looking at this, I am looking for goobers, and goobers will wreck your design. So they jump out at you. Right here, you can see there's something there. So I'm going to try to figure out if I can fix that, if I can get it out. I don't know if I can. So how do goobers happen? Goobers can happen because of your Floetrol. They can, oh no, they can also happen if you have little crusties on your storage containers. Like if you have your paint, you made a bunch of it because you knew you were going to spend the weekend pouring and you didn't want to have to mix paint multiple times. When you put those lids on your cups, sometimes they get crusties around the top. So before you put away your paints that you've mixed, you always want to wipe your edges. So here's an example. So that cup there, I just want to wipe my edge because that will dry on there, and then when I open it up, the little crusties will fall down into my paint, and we don't want that. Let's spin some more. Actually, let's tilt some more this way. You guys see the unicorn popping up here? So the unicorn next to the Prussian blue makes it this really neat color shift purple. Unicorn is a color shift pigment. And I've got Mermaid in the center. It's not color shift, it's just freaking mermastic. It's fantastically mermaid, gorgeous. We're spinning slow. We want to test and see how much we have in the center. We haven't really spun that much. So I've got quite a bit on here. I think what I did is I put a little more turquoise in that layer than I should have, but that's okay. We're still going to end up with a nice composition. And looking at this, I do want to stretch a little further to get this goober situation gone. What in the hay is that? That same one. I feel like I'm fighting with the same ones today. Okay. So every painting tells a story, guys. So I can look at this and I can tell what I did and learn from it. So say there's something I don't like, you can kind of start dissecting what you did by the results you're getting and decide what to do next time. So if I were to do this painting again next time, I would use a little bit less cloud. I've got a whole lot of cloud here, and I would use a little bit less of the turquoise. So I'm going to try to lose a little bit more on that edge. And if you're just beginning and you're not sure, like, when do you stop? When do you stop spinning? Take your skewer and go in the center and see where you're at. You just want to have, oh goodness, I don't even know, less than an 1/8. Very, very little. I'm going to tilt more. I want to lose some of this right here. And so I'm going to have to do a little more tilting and a little more spinning. And I might not be able to lose it. We'll see. Now, I spun a little faster that time. That's just for the sake of time for you guys watching. And I wanted to put a little velocity behind it to try to get that spot off that I didn't like. So, because we're spinning more and more, we're starting to get a little of that transparency coming in there. These weird sections. Okay, I'm just gonna have to deal with that. So say I don't want to stop spinning. Say I just want to keep going. I want to keep trying to stretch the design. Keep trying, keep drawing. What's going to start happening? Your clouds are going to get a little more transparent as the color underneath is going to start showing through a little bit more, but you also risk your design getting super wonky. So if I keep spinning, this little wonky do right here is going to probably get even more wonky. And I keep testing that center to see, oh, you think I could give it a little bit more? I can probably go about 2 more spins. So since this is just a sample for you guys, I'm going to keep spinning. And I want to show you what it looks like if I just keep on going so that you'll know kind of what that will look like. So we'll see the good and the bad of it. So yeah, let's just keep taking it out. Keep stretching, keep stretching. Normally I would not do this. I would have stopped there. But I want you guys to see what starts to happen. Okay, the paints are getting thinner on the top. So all this is kind of getting more stretched out, more bubbly. There's not as much paint on there for it to slide off of. So those round shapes that we first had, now they're starting to get misshapen. We're starting to get more transparency here. You can tell there's just a lot of cloud through there, so not much is happening there. So if we spin again, what's going to happen? This is going to get more wonky. We might lose a little bit of this, and that's fine. But things are going to start getting just odd. But we're going to, for the sake of just this video, let's do it. Okay, so what has happened here? Our cloud has spread out massively. So we've got a lot of white. Mermaid has gone really far down, so that will dry nice and shimmery. But this just looks really jagged looking. If there were any little goobers or anything, air bubbles or whatever, it's going to make them even more misshapen. We lost Unicorn. She may actually show up just a little bit on the edge, but for the most part, Unicorn went to the wayside. So A little less cloud next time if I was pouring this exact one, a little less turquoise. But all in all, it's a good example of a pour. I hope that answered any questions or helped jog your memory a little bit about what we learned in the class. And yeah, I hope y'all have a great day. I'm going to scrape this one. I don't want to waste that substrate, and I will paint on it again, and y'all will probably see it in an upcoming video soon. Bye, y'all.